All right, we're back for another episode of Rich Take on Sports, and it's my honor to welcome in Retin Obasohan.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you so much. I greatly appreciate it.
Pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
How often do you have to have your name pronounced the wrong way? Or should I say, how often do you have to correct people?
I would say it is definitely a daily thing. Whenever I come in a new environment, or even every day I call housekeeping or in-room dining, it's I've heard the most creative.
What's some of the creative ones that you've heard?
Obama-san.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like 5 letters that don't even occur in my name.
It's not even there.
Yeah, but I don't mind it. I think it's fun.
It's a unique name.
Yeah, it is. It's Nigerian by origin, so I understand that. I guess it's not the easiest to pronounce. So I really got to a point where sometimes I just, whatever you want to call it, just go ahead.
Just go ahead, yeah. Do you correct people quite often, or do you let them just go until a point where they've said it too many times and you probably have to correct them?
Exactly. It depends. So I like to believe that the places that they need to say it the right way, they will. So like, for instance, whenever we're playing games, we actually have somebody that's actually designated and helps them with pronunciations of everybody's name. so whenever we're playing games, they'll say it the right way. But for instance, when I'm calling like the concierge and they say it the wrong way, I'm not going to correct them. You know,
because you're going one-time interaction with them probably, and that's it.
I don't really see the point, so I'm just like, it's okay. And just keep it moving.
Well, even for me, Richmond, I mean, it's a family name,
right.
But a lot of people, especially if they see it in print, they'll just see R-I-C-H and then the D at the end, and they call me Richard. Huh. And that's just common. That happens all of the time.
Wow, I wouldn't think that.
Yeah, so I have to correct them that it's Richmond. And there's a lot of times, though, too, I don't correct them. You know, I just let it go
right, exactly.
the way it is. Now, was it a family name? I know you mentioned it comes from Nigeria. But
yes.
Has it been in your family for a while?
It has been. So, Obasohan is come down from great-great-grandparents to my dad to us. Funny thing is, I only have 3 brothers. No sisters, so the Obasohan family name will keep
it going.
We'll
right?
keep it going. So, it's something I take great pride in.
Yeah, I imagine you do. And obviously you take great pride in sports, and that's why I wanted to learn a little bit more of kind of your journey, especially you have a unique journey. I mean, coming to America and the way you've been able to do that, and then obviously flourish in the sport of basketball. So let's go back before you came to America.
Right.
And you're growing up in the Obasohan family. And what's that like with your brothers?
It's a lot of fun. Very competitive. Very competitive. So we got 2 older brothers and then 1 younger. And just growing up, he was always, we were always finding ways to, push each other to, to be the best that we could be, whether it be in school, getting the highest grades, or in sports and doing the best, or just even like things we do in our community, just being able to help the most people. It was always about how can we push each other as a family to be better, just be that much better, regardless of what the circumstances might be. Being that my parents migrated from Nigeria to Belgium, like the beginning wasn't like, it was rough. We didn't always have all the means we would have liked to have. And but my parents never let me and my brothers use that as an excuse or a crux. Instead, my parents always motivated us to look at that as a positive, to take our negative, turn them into positives, and help them shape us and create a foundation on which we could then build a better future for myself and our families to come. So it was a lot of fun growing up in the Obasohan household.
It had to be very competitive.
Yeah, for sure. Still is to this day.
I imagine so. Did you have fights? Were you guys competing in everything? I know you mentioned all the things that you were competing, but I'm talking about just on a daily basis, like who can run up the stairs the fastest.
Well, sometimes, it's like, for instance, if you'd go to the park, it'd be like who can get to the house the quickest, or me and my brothers and my dad, we would play doubles in tennis. So that was also a competition, like, who would win the most games. There's just countless of ways we would find ways to just, kind of push each other. But yeah, those are fond memories that I'll carry with me forever.
And did your parents share with you why they migrated to Belgium?
Yeah, faintly. We've talked about it, and it's something that I didn't want to I guess probe my parents too much for it. But I'll say the main idea was to provide myself and my other brothers with a better future at life. Even though Nigeria is lovely, I've been back. But my parents, believed that us moving to Europe would give me and my brothers a better opportunity to achieve the dreams that we would set out to have.
Now, were you born in Belgium or were you born in Nigeria?
I was born in Belgium, yeah, but my 2 older brothers are born in Nigeria.
And how old were they when your parents left to go to Belgium?
6 and 4. Yeah, 6 and 4.
Okay, so they still probably don't remember too much.
They remember enough, actually.
Okay.
I've talked to my brothers about it, and they really remember living in Nigeria and actually having a good time. So we've talked about that, at dinner and stuff. So it's it makes for fun conversations.
How old were you when you first went to Nigeria then?
I was actually in college. I was in college. I think I was about 19. Yeah, I think I was 19 when I went to. Yeah.
And what was your first impression?
It's hot.
But now you're used to at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Alabama heat.
I am.
Because that's hot.
It is, but Africa heat is different.
It's different. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, that's different.
I've always heard the term. It feels like it's Africa hot. So I know that's a different level.
Yeah, it's definitely different. But it was so much fun. I remember getting out the airport, and then my mom, my dad picking me up, and just riding through and just being able to say, okay, this is what shaped the culture and the principles and norms that my parents raised me in. So it was really cool to have a visual, associated with that, because even though we are a Nigerian family living in Belgium, our household is really, I'd say, surrounded around the Nigerian culture. So everything we did was very traditional to the way my family was raised. But at the same time, we were in Belgium. So when I would walk outside the door, it's totally different. So it was really cool to then finally come to Nigeria and actually see okay, this is
the foundation.
Right, this is the country that goes with the culture. So that was really, really nice to see. Fruit is the best I've ever had.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unreal. I don't know how they do it. It's the best I've ever had. Some of the best.
What particular fruit?
I had some of the best pineapple and mango I've ever had in my life over there.
I'm a huge mango fan.
Yeah, unreal. But that's now I see where my mom gets her cooking from. Because coming there, I ate like a king. Yeah.
Now, have you inherited any of the cooking skills?
To a certain degree. I've been a little bit spoiled financially. So I haven't always had to cook myself. You know what I mean? So, obviously with basketball, I've been a little spoiled in that regard, where I don't really get that much practice, because I'm fortunate to play for organizations or be in teams where,
yeah, here's your meals.
Here are your meals, and it's prepared for you by somebody that can cook better than you. So I can hold it down, but I wouldn't say I'm as good as my mom. Nowhere near.
Yeah, you got a long way to go for that.
Yeah, a long way.
There's nothing like mom cooking, right?
No, not at all.
Now, talking about the sports side of things in Belgium, when you're competing against your brothers in the different sports, so what sports did you gravitate towards first?
Actually, soccer and tennis. Those were the 2 that I started playing.
It seems like soccer, that's a norm. I mean, that's like
exactly.
Basketball, football here in America.
And also being that my dad played soccer. So because of that, growing up, I, gave it a try, and, it's a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, played it for I think maybe 1 or 2 years.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it was a passion or anything.
No,
you just got out there and played.
Did. Also with playing in Belgium, it's really cold. And it's rainy and snowy, and I just didn't enjoy that, especially at a young age. I was like, nah, this ain't for me. So then moved it indoors to tennis, Played that for a little bit, but at the same time, I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And then followed one of my older brothers to his basketball practice, and then that was really it. Like when I went to his practice, I came home to my dad, I want to play basketball, and I think I was maybe like seven years old, and I've been trucking ever since.
That's right. You haven't looked back.
Never looked back.
Well, it's one of the big things that I love about basketball, and which I know, based on what you just commented about, it's indoors. You don't have to worry about the weather. That's right. And as a parent with 3 teenagers, they've played their sports, and they all played soccer as well.
Right.
And it was one of those things. I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to, as a fan watching my kids play, I have to worry about the weather also. It's like, let's get back to basketball. So it's easy, even as a fan, to sit there in the comfort of indoors. So I understand that. So what was it about basketball that immediately struck you that that's what I want to play?
Right. I don't know if I could say it was immediately.
Okay.
I just remember that I really wanted to play it and give it a chance.
Now, was it because that you saw your brother and you wanted to be like your brother?
I think to a certain degree you could say that. Because family is extremely important to me. Family and even close friends. So I really invest, I guess, a great deal of respect in my brothers, in my parents, uncles, cousins, all that stuff. So I think to a certain degree you can definitely say that looking at my brother, looking up to him, and he was a star player in his regard, and I was just like, maybe I do want to be like him, maybe I do want to become like him. So I think early on it was, looking up to your brother and wanted to play the game and be like him. And I think that over the course, I just kept getting better and kept getting better and kept getting better. And then the competition part started to kick in, because now it was not only like, oh, I'm trying to be like my brother. Now I'm trying to beat my brother. And now not only am I trying to beat my brother, but I'm actually pretty good at this. So I can beat other people too. and then that was just like the vicious cycle that just like I got it going to, because I vividly remember me being, I think I was like around like 12, and I was at this tournament and absolutely crushed it. It was like a Christmas tournament, like won MVP and all that good stuff. And it's like there was, like I always remember, like along my basketball career, pro and just recreationally, I guess, back home, there were always instances where like I would achieve something and I would just like ignite that fire even more. And it was like almost like throwing gasoline on the fire. It was just, there would always be instances like I'd win something, or this had happened, or I'd play somebody that would like absolutely kick my butt, and I'm like, oh no, I gotta get better, and that just kind of has always been pushing me forward.
That was your motivation.
Yeah, and yeah, now it's 19 years later, and I'm still playing, still trying to be better than I was, yesterday.
And now, is it why you're continuing to play today? Is it because of this motivation to reach the pinnacle, to reach the NBA and play at the highest level? Or is it also that you just love the sport so much that you want to play as long as you can? Because we all know we have finite amount of time that we can actually play at a certain level.
Right.
So what is continuing to push you then?
It's a combination of things. I like to think about my why. Why is it that I get up in the morning and put myself through rigorous training, consistently day after day? And I would say one aspect is just because I really love the game. Like I enjoy it, every aspect of it. The even just competing, to the X's and O's, to the strategy, to even like scheduling and how you have to go about that, and watching film. Like I just enjoy the game and everything that comes with it. But also I just love the competitive side of it. That the game doesn't lie. You get out what you put in. So, if you put in the work, then the game will reward you. I like it when things are, it's clear cut. You either put in the work or you didn't. You either get better or you don't. So it's very simple in that regard, that you just have to put in the work in order to get better and to achieve what it is you want to achieve. You just have to put in the work. and then you'll have an opportunity to actually get there. So, but then as I've been getting older, it started with the love, then the competition. Now it just became so much bigger than that. Obviously coming to America, playing college basketball, enjoying some success. Even when I was in Belgium playing over there, I started to realize that it's more than just me. That when I'm playing the game, there are people that look up to me. There are people that consciously or subconsciously attach a certain degree of their motivation, their happiness, their entertainment to what it is that I do on the court. And when I started to realize that, he just added another, sense of motivation, because now I'm like, okay, now I'm not only competing, but now I can actually be of service, to a community, to a person, to the world. So it just became so much bigger that it's not just about basketball anymore. I have an opportunity through the game of basketball to impact somebody for the better, to maybe make them do what they want to do or push through a bad day. And yeah, all that stuff just keeps me going.
And that's why I think sports is so big,
right,
and so much bigger than some people want to give it value.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of, it is bigger than just the game itself. And to your point, what you put in is what you get out, and
right,
that's life, right?
Right, exactly.
It's how much you're willing to put in is going to be what you're going to get in return.
Exactly.
And in terms of how people can look up to you, does that put pressure on you in terms of, okay, I've got to perform at a certain level, or I've got to maintain a certain level of humbleness,
right,
or and also level set myself? Does that, is that a struggle at times to have to live up to certain quote unquote standards?
Right. I wouldn't say it's a struggle. I will say it's something that I had to learn. Because, like I said, over time, that's when I started to realize that people actually pay attention to who I am and what I do, and how, my actions do have impact on
Was
people.
there a moment, though, that it really started setting in, that you can remember that you felt that there was an impact of what you were doing?
I would say, I noticed it, I would say, when I was 16, 17, and then going through my first couple of years at Alabama. But my senior year at Alabama, when I really started going and achieving individual success and having the opportunities on and off the court to speak to kids and speak to camps. And there'll be times I'd even be speaking at at actual banquets with state officials. That's when I started realizing, I was like, okay.
This is a little bit bigger.
Okay. I'm 21-year-old talking to a 65-year-old senator. I'm like, this doesn't add up. You know what I mean? Okay, so, but I guess why it didn't add any pressure was because I'm very fortunate to have the family that I have, and character qualities and the standards that they raised me with and instilled me with. So, my dad always says, when you know who you are, you know what to do. And I think that's really important, especially in this day and age. I feel like a lot of people are getting out of touch with who they are, or maybe even who they need to be. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like a lot of people are trying to, almost compensate. And I just wish that more people my age and even younger would realize that you don't have to live up to somebody else's standard of you. You know what I mean? You got to really find for yourself how you feel, what you think is best, how you can be of a positive impact in your community. And with that, that's all I try to do. All I try to do is be of service to whoever's next to me, whoever's around me. So that just takes the pressure off of me, because it's not necessarily about me. All I try to do is control what I can control. And that's my emotions, my habits, my actions, my energy, the way I interact with people. Everything else is in God's hands. So that in of itself takes the pressure away. You just got to come out there and compete, and then let everything else that you can't control, just leave that in God's hands. So I think finding that balance, that takes all the pressure away.
Because you're focusing on, to your point, the things that you can control.
Exactly.
When you start focusing on the things you can't control, that's when you don't have the ability to be self-aware and understand who you are and what path might be best for you. And unfortunately, as great as technology is, and obviously social media, that's where we can get caught up with trying to compare. And I know there's a lot of people that can question social media, but it does have the negative side of it's not always real.
Right.
Because people are trying to put a different image forward than who they really are.
Exactly.
Just so they can compare themselves, to somebody else and think that they're in a better position when actually they're not, because it's not authentic. And I think that's where we also have seemed to have shifted away from focusing on authenticity in society. And that's just something that we have to be aware of. So I love your mindset of,
thank you,
at least you're aware of it.
Yeah.
And trying to, know. And you talked about, from you had a really good foundation from your parents. So was there a lot of discipline in your household?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, the Bible says, discipline your kids in the way that they might go. So, I truly believe that. And then, my parents, till this day, whenever I'm missing the mark or not, living up to the standard that we set in our household, they'll remind me of it. And it's not in the way of them condemning me, but it's more so in a way of that's not who you are. And I actually truly believe that's an important distinction. When we condemn, I feel like the natural tendency is to defend yourself or defend your actions. But when you remind somebody of who they are, well, now they'll remind themselves like, oh, okay, I'm not living up to who I am. Okay, let me tighten up, and that's something that I try to do with, like younger players and even my little brother. Whenever I notice he's in a situation that's outside of our family and they want to condemn him, oh, you're doing this bad, I'm like, don't necessarily focus on that. Just remind yourself of this is who you are. And if you live up to that consistently, you'll be fine. Don't worry about like the negative connotation that comes with somebody condemning you. Just remind yourself of the person you are and the values you've set. And then, all that will take care of itself.
Well, you just remember that when you're a parent, okay? So you can tell your kids, because that is very wise, believe me. But as parents, we don't have this handbook, so to speak.
Right.
So sometimes you get shifted away from some of those foundational principles. So make sure you remember that. Okay?
Yes, I'm a child. I make sure I write everything down.
That's right. Well, I saw you're a note taker. I like how you put lists together and your action items. So keep that one on there. How much exposure did you have to American basketball in Belgium?
Close to none. Literally close to none.
Really?
Yeah. So there would be times where some teams would come to Belgium and play in like tournaments, and that would be like a little bit exposure. But my first exposure to American basketball was actually the Kobe Bryant basketball camp that I attended when I was like 14. When I was 14, my uncle lives in I have an uncle in Atlanta and an uncle in LA, and I went to go visit both of them for like a month, and there happened to be a camp, like Kobe Bryant had a basketball camp. So, asked to sign up there, and due to like a misunderstanding of like the form we had to submit, I ended up being in the group 16 to 18 instead of 12 to 14. So my first experience of American basketball was like immediately elevated, going against like juniors and seniors in high school. And just to see that, I was just like, holy cow, like these are like super impressive. So that just like, that was another one. That was one of those moments.
Adding fuel to your motivation, right?
Yeah, that was one of those moments. And I remember coming back to Belgium that summer, and like some guys were like, yo, where have you been playing? What have you been doing for the last month? And I was like, trust me, this is just only the beginning. So, yeah.
And did you feel that you could compete, though, at a certain point with those guys? Again, I know they were better than you just because older, but did you feel that you were able to hold your own?
Yeah, I felt like I could, but I actually couldn't. So I think it was one of those situations where I was like, okay, maybe not now, but like, give me a couple months. You know, it was one of those things. And I've always been that type of guy to say that, like, okay, like you might have like my number today, but I'll be back tomorrow. And if it's not tomorrow, I'll be back the next day. Because there's going to be a day you're going to lose to me. So that's kind of like always been my mindset. And that's how I felt at that tournament, or like not that tournament, that basketball camp. Because I remember we were playing 5-on-5 and they were just kicking my butt. Because they even asked me, because later they realized, they were asking like, how old are you? I'm 14. They're like, you know, you're in the oldest age group? I was like, yeah. They're like, do you want to switch? And I was like, no, I'm fine.
Stay right here.
Yeah. So
I'm ready.
Day after day, I was just, you know, keep getting my butt kicked. But I mean, I'm not
now, when did you
down.
learn English?
I learned that like as early as I can remember. So we would speak English at home. Like in our home, we would speak English, me, my parents, and my brothers. But then outside, I'll speak Dutch and French, because that's the going languages in Belgium. So that was like the combination, and that's how I learned languages growing up.
That's impressive. I'm jealous. I can only speak English. And to hear that you speak 3 and maybe 4 languages,
right.
That's amazing.
So you didn't have me well.
Yeah, so obviously it had to serve you well, because like coming to America, so you didn't have any real struggles from a translation perspective. At least you knew English. Now you might not know the geographical dialects and the slangs, especially once you got to Alabama.
Exactly. That's something I had to learn.
How was that transition?
It was eye-opening, I think, to say the least. It was definitely eye-opening.
Now give me an example when you say eye-opening. What does that mean to Retin?
Gosh, it's hard to just pick one. You know, there are just so many little things. I think the biggest difference was in the details. You know, from the type of food, the cuisine, to the weather, to it being humid there, to the sudden hospitality, which is a very real thing, to also the segregation, which is also a real thing. So I think it's like almost contradicting, but still interesting how
it very much so is.
Is known for like their sudden hospitality, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't. If I said I didn't witness some degree of segregation or racism or stuff like that. So it's funny how, like, you know, you have 2 extremes of that in one place, but yeah, no, it was definitely eye opening, and yeah, I experienced it too.
Real negative ways, or just
both? That's the funny part. I experienced times of extreme generosity and that sudden hospitality where everything is so loving, and you know, people really just like wanted to take me in and help me get, you know, adjusted to, you know, the culture and anything that I need in terms of help with school. Like, they were just always there for me, and I'll always be grateful for the University of Alabama because it is. But at the same time, there would be times, especially early on when people didn't know who I was, where I would experience racism and, you know, being called the N-word or not being allowed somewhere because of the color of my skin. And but it was interesting how stuff like that actually became lesser and lesser the more or the better I started playing. So I thought that was an interesting twist, but it's still very real, and that's something that I like to speak out on.
So how did that make you feel then, that there could be a component of how you perform was a reflection on how some people viewed you?
Even though I disagree with that way of thinking, it's hard to refute. You know, I think that society even today is very like, what can you do for me now? You know, and even though that's not the right way to go about it, I think it's just the reality of today as it is. So no, I don't agree with it, but you almost gotta find a way to handle that and just realize that, okay, maybe.
Yeah. So how did you handle it?
By staying true to myself, learning to realize that, okay, maybe this is the way that it's done, but that doesn't mean that's how I have to do things. I think that's, again, falls in line with my parents said, when you know who you are, you know what to do. So my biggest thing is it's not going to be about what you can do for me. I'm just going to be the best that I can be. I'm going to show you love. I'm going to show you compassion. I'm going to show you respect. And that's going to be that. You might have malintentions, and I'm going to be aware of that, but that's not going to change how, I'm going to treat you. I'm going to just be aware of it. I think that's like the balance. That's agreeing to disagree. You might not, agree in the way you're doing things, but if you can just like, okay, that's how you do things. Okay, I respect that. This is how I do things. And not compromise, your integrity. I think you can actually go a long way with people that you disagree.
Well, too many times people get so caught up in the disagreement that they can't even come to the conclusion that it's okay to disagree.
Right, exactly.
We can agree to disagree, and that doesn't mean that we have to dislike each other,
right,
because we disagree on a certain opinion.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people, especially as in the political world today, it's either you're on one side or the other, and you can't even come to a happy medium because of that. And it's a short-sighted way of thinking. And I'm a big believer, what you talked about, the love thing, is that the only way to be loved is to give love.
Right.
I mean, that's the number one principle.
Right.
As far as being loved, you've got to be able to give it, as well. And I always found it fascinating too, what you described. It seems how certain people treat, especially athletes, and talking about racism and segregation. The guys that they're cheering for somebody like you, or they're athletes, to perform, and they're going crazy, but outside of the stadium or the arena, they wouldn't have anything to do with them.
Exactly.
And it just boggles my mind that we're still in that type of mindset today.
It's unfortunate, but it's a reality.
That's right. Why Alabama, though? I mean, I know there was a connection between the assistant coach and your club in Belgium, but were there other schools?
There were a few, but I just had a connection to Alabama. It was when I went on my official visit. It was right after the tornado had hit. I think it was like a week or two after. And one of the things that Anthony Grant said at that time was, his vision was to use Alabama basketball to reinstill hope in the community. And that was something that I could really find myself attaching my purpose to. I was like, I believe in that. Like I said, that was like the time where I was starting to realize basketball is bigger than just, what happens within the court. So you just, fell in line with the revelations that I was starting to have around that age. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is a team I want to play for. This is a program I want to play for. This is a coach I want to play for. And, I'm proud to say that in my 5 years in Alabama, I did exactly that, through our team's success, ups and downs. I think we did instill a lot of hope and joy and laughter in the community.
And that's the other thing with sports too. We're talking about just the value of sports, and it can go all the way back to when there are tragedies, how sports brings people back together. Obviously, a big example in America is after 9/11.
Exactly.
And what that was like, and just how it can unify people, at least for a period of time.
Right.
It seems to subside eventually, right? But for a certain period of time. Now, how long did it take you to get indoctrinated then into Alabama football as a fan? Because you have to love Alabama football if you're going to be at Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
But you probably didn't have much exposure to, obviously, American football if you didn't American basketball.
Not at all. I remember coming on my visit, and visiting the stadium, and I asked Coach Brand. I was like, "Is this the soccer stadium?" Because in Europe, a stadium that size is soccer, And then I saw the grass, but I didn't see any goals. So I was like, "Is this a soccer stadium?" And they're like, "No, this is American football stadium." I was like, okay. So it wasn't until, obviously a couple months after and the season started going that I saw like, okay, this is American football. So it took me a while to, kind of
you had to understand the game.
Yeah, understand the game and grow a certain affinity for it, which I eventually did. But I can see it. I can see the beauty in it and why it's
Well, there's a lot of passion.
Yeah.
For football, and then obviously Alabama football.
Right.
If you live in the state of Alabama.
I saw it firsthand. So I became a fan. I still am, and but it did take a while for me to kind of get acclimated to it.
Now, do you have much interaction with Nick Saban?
I did. Every now and then, he's such a great guy. That's a thing that a lot of people don't get about him. He's like so laid back.
He doesn't seem that way.
He doesn't seem it
on the field
because they don't show that. Obviously, on the field is on the field. I'm the same way. When it's go time, it's go time. Like all like the fun and go stuff. Like, okay, it's time to work. But when you just catch him, like during like office hours, he's such a great dude. You can just have a conversation with him like this, which I've done plenty of times. So I've enjoyed his company.
Now, if you didn't have much exposure to basketball while you were in Belgium, who are you wanting to emulate other than obviously your brother? But from once you did at least get some exposure, like at the Kobe Bryant camp, I mean, were there guys in the NBA that you wanted to be like? Right.
So I wouldn't say, like when I say I didn't have much exposure to American basketball, I would say that's me actually competing against them.
Okay.
So I would watch videos, like NBA videos on my computer. One of my like couple favorite point guards growing up was Baron Davis, like one of my favorites till this day. Grew up watching Iverson, Gary Payton, Deron Williams, also like one of my all-time favorites. I truly believe that even Deron Williams is probably one of the smoothest point guards to ever come through the NBA. So those were guys that I was watching growing up. So I would just watch videos of them, constantly, and try to steal their moves.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing at all.
That's a form of flattery when you try to steal what they're doing.
Exactly.
And so from your perspective then, your senior year, you don't get drafted. So what's your mindset at that point?
Not today, but maybe tomorrow. So that's never changed. Obviously, it was unfortunate to go undrafted, but I remember telling this to my friends and family at my draft party. I was like, who would have thought? When I came to Alabama 5 years ago, bright-eyed and no facial hair. I was like, who would have thought that? 5 years later, I would have set records and become a first team all
SEC Player of the Year, or first team, Scholar Athlete of the Year.
First team all defense, Scholar Athlete. Like who would have thought? Like, yeah, these are things that you set out to achieve, but sometimes you'll set a goal and it'll be hard to actually see it. See it in front of you. So I was telling people, like, who would have thought? That I'd go from Antwerp, Belgium, to have an opportunity to even get drafted to begin with. I think I had like 12 or 14 draft workouts. I had no idea, like I never anticipated having that many. So yeah, it was, I guess bittersweet, but just to have that opportunity to even get that close was, again, like another, just like throwing gas on it. Like he was just throwing gas on the fire. It was just
more
like,
motivation.
It just pushed me all the more to like just keep getting better, and just see, how good of a player I can be.
What do you think the general population doesn't really understand about the grind of what you and so many other guys are going through, trying to make it to the elite level?
I think a lot of people don't know. I think a lot of people think they know, but they don't have an actual visual,
true understanding
what that looks like. Like even my friends. So this past summer, I created a kind of training camp for myself in terms of a schedule that I was following. And I had some of my friends stay with me during that training camp. And these are some of my closest friends. And even they were shocked because they didn't know. They knew that it takes discipline and working hard and all that good stuff. But it wasn't until they actually stayed with me that they saw okay, holy cow, these guys always going. You know what I mean?
So they saw the time commitment.
So they saw it. So I think that, and these are my closest friends who should know, but they didn't even know. So I think a lot of people don't really know what it looks like. But
it's not just showing up. Well, let me go to this tryout.
Yeah,
there's much more than that.
A lot goes into it. But I think that's the beauty of it, and I think that not everything has to be publicized. I think there's a good balance that, you have to do some work in the shadows. You just have to. You don't always have to get a pat on your back for every workout that you do, or every sale that you make, or every successful meal that you prepare. You don't always have to take a picture of it and show the world. So,
well, a lot of people do.
Yeah, exactly. So I truly believe a lot of, it's cool doing it in the shadows. I truly believe that. But I think that, you just gotta find that balance.
Now, you look like, though, you could actually play football.
Yeah.
So, I'm surprised Nick Saban didn't try to get you out on the football field.
Everybody asked that, but the funny thing is he actually did. Yeah, he actually did, yeah.
All right, well, you got to share that.
Well, yeah, we talked about it once, I think he was, it's a defensive coaches meeting. And I'd been up in the office talking to him because we were showing a recruit around. And after he spoke to the recruit left, and I just kind of stayed behind and talked to him, and he was laying out some of the plans that he had for Alabama football. He took me in their defensive coaches meeting. He was like, "Wouldn't he look good in some pads?" And all their coaches were like, "Yeah, I think he would." And then they were speculating what position I would play. And then I was like, "Yeah, that's my cue to go." My cue to go.
You passed on that.
Yeah, definitely did.
It's an outdoor sport.
Yeah, it's outdoor.
Let's keep it indoors, right?
Keep it indoor, AC, and keep it on the hardwood.
Now, when you look back in your journey, and it's still going, though. You're not at a point where you're deciding to move on, but have you thought about, through this whole journey, what will be your cue in terms of when you decide not to play anymore?
Right. I think that's one of those things that when you get there, you'll know. I don't know if there's one set thing I said, okay, if that happens, I'm good.
So you haven't set a goal that if I don't reach it by this date, then
no.
I'm moving on?
No, I don't, because I don't really believe in that. Just gonna keep going, as long as God permits it and my body can handle it. Why not? Obviously I say that now, and who knows, 10, 12, 13 years from now, you have kids and things change. But that's what I mean with when you'll know. So I think that as of right now, 26, feeling healthy, I can keep it going for
That's right.
as long as my body can hold. So for now, I don't see no end in the future. But I truly believe that once I get closer to that, I think that'll start to formulate, and I'll have an idea what that'll look like.
And you've mentioned God a few times. How important is your faith?
Oh, it's everything. It's the true foundation on which I've tried to build my life and my legacy, or even just the way I guess, move through this thing called life. I think I mentioned it earlier. I think everybody needs a moral compass. I think everybody has one, knowingly or unknowingly. It just depends on where you kind of draw your line. I've chosen to draw mine alongside with Jesus Christ in the Bible. That's just what I've chosen. I understand some people don't. and that's okay. But I'm gonna live my life in a way that I think is best for this world, and that's the path that I've chosen.
And then from a perspective of sports, why has sports meant so much to you?
I think because feel like sports is also very spiritual for me, because in a lot of ways I see a lot of correlation. Like a lot of the Bible verses I feel like apply to what it is I do on a daily basis. You know, like from Philippians 4:13 to Jeremiah 29:11 to Romans 8:28. It's like they're all these verses, they almost like go hand in hand. Like there'll be times where like you name it, where I'll never forget this. It was my junior year in college, so my fourth year, so a redshirt junior, and I just came off an ankle injury. I had ankle surgery, wasn't feeling good, struggling with that, and I wasn't playing. So I'm 20, 21, and I'm not playing. And the year before, I played a bunch. So, you know, that could have been one of those times where I was like, man, this is basketball thing really for me? Am I struggling, this and that? And there was a picture taken of me sitting on the bench where I was like cheesing, you know, because I always try to keep a positive attitude. And I remember it was actually a girl that played softball sending me that picture and literally said, irregardless of how the game went, a lot of people can look at Retin on the bench and like learn a lesson from that. And when she sent me that message, the verse that I thought of was Jeremiah 29:11. And I actually posted it on Instagram, and it's funny because a year later, I'm averaging 22 points in the SEC, and that's the thing. Like sometimes you just don't know what God has for you, but you just have to stay consistent. And I think that sports is one of those things, like anything in life, honestly. But sports is just a little bit magnified because it's on TV, but it just reveals your character. It builds it and it reveals it. So you'll have adversity. But again, if you remember who you are, you know what to do. You just have to stay consistent with, you know, the values that you've set for yourself, the work ethic, and, you know, good things will happen. And yeah, I think that's why sports and I guess my faith just really go hand in hand, because there's been countless of times where it's been tough and I have to look at my faith. And there's been times where it's been really good and I have to remind myself of my faith. So it's been like on both sides, whether it's been going good or been going bad, I've always had to like find center, not to get too high or too low. So that's how like sports and my faith just kind of really go together.
And I'm a big believer in terms of never get too high, never get too low.
Right.
But when you can have a foundation that allows you to have that type of mindset.
Exactly.
Because if you don't, it's very difficult. And I didn't come into my faith until I was 36, 37 years old. And so I felt I missed out on a lot of life not having that foundation.
Right.
We all have our own journey
Exactly.
and just self-discovery. So I'm very blessed that now I'm 48, that I've had this long period of time, 11, 12 years of having that foundation.
Exactly.
So it has meant a lot to me as well. Now, from a perspective as we're wrapping up, words of wisdom. Now, you've got some scripture and things that you have leaned on and that you value, but are there any other phrases, mottos, quotes, or just life advice that has meant a lot to you that you'd like to share?
I got a book full. Okay. I got a book full. Yeah, it's funny. I was actually having this conversation a couple of days with one of my teammates. He was like, "You always say my dad's one set." I said, "Because my dad says a lot." My dad says a lot. Yeah, it's I had a mentor a couple years back that challenged me to have these things he calls guiding posts. And it's something I always had, but he really like kind of put a name to what it is that I've been living with for years. And what he basically calls them are just little quotes that you can go back to in any situation in life. And that's why I like have a book and I have them all written down on my phone. Like for every type of situation, I'll have a quote that I can go back to, or like for instance, one of my favorite ones is action is a motivation. So I think what that means to me is short and sweet. Action is a motivation. Is that I don't wait till I feel like it to do it. I do it and then trust that I'll feel like it. Action is a motivation. So, for instance, you wake up, you're sore, but you got to work out. Are you going to wait until that soreness wears off and you feel like working out? No. I'm working out at 7 a.m. Action. I'll just go do it. And once you get out there, everybody knows, like, they always say the hardest part to getting in the gym is getting to the gym.
Just getting going.
Just getting going. So, action is the motivation is one. Choices, not feelings. Oh gosh, keep carrying water. I have so many quotes that whenever I get in tough situations, even like in the game, like I'll just.
Oh, will you think of something?
Yeah, all the time.
In the game,
all the time. Like even we played China yesterday, Team China, and there's a play in the third quarter where I drove middle, passed it to a big guy, and he missed the shot. And I literally walked up to him, and I was literally trying to just tell him my quotes. And I was just telling him my quotes. I was like, just keep carrying water, keep carrying water, keep carrying water. And what that means is just like, just keep going.
That's right. Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that.
Just
next play.
Keep moving forward.
Next play. And I don't know. It just worked for me, And yeah, I have like in notes just quote.
Well, I'm a big guy
run through them
as well that believes in these phrases, mottos, quotes, or whatever, and what I call words of wisdom that I tried to start sharing with my 3 kids early on, and
right.
They were bored to tears with it and hated it
right.
at the time.
Yeah.
But I do think that it is very important to have those type of things,
exactly.
to have those things to lean back on. And
it's scriptural as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
It really is. And, I think that regardless of how old you are in life, we all can have these words of wisdom and advice, and because we have different experiences. And so even going back to your point where you're a 21-year-old and you're talking to a person at 65 in Alabama,
yeah,
it doesn't matter. Age shouldn't be a limit
exactly.
in terms of what you can share from a wisdom perspective,
right.
because you have a different experience than a lot of other people. And but Retin, I can't thank you enough for letting me experience a little bit of your journey and you sharing that with us.
I
greatly appreciate it. Thank you
a
so much.
Pleasure. It's been all mine. Thank you.